The first Rage was originally touted as a Mad Max-inspired FPS set in a post-apocalyptic open world. But when it finally came out, many players were left disappointed by just how linear it was in places and some of the unfulfilled promises. So with Rage 2 coming out sometime next year, will id Software finally be able to deliver on what they originally promised?
Rage 2 is the surprise sequel to 2011's Rage, which is being co-developed by id Software and Avalanche Studios for the PC, PS4 and Xbox One. It's due out sometime in 2019. We first learned about the existence of Rage 2 when Walmart Canada accidentally leaked a list of games available for pre-order in May of this year. The first Rage was generally regarded as a decent game with solid combat and impressive visuals, hovering around the 80% mark on Metacritic on its various platforms. But it didn't exactly do much unique and failed to distinguish itself from other post-apocalyptic games like Fallout and Borderlands. So when publisher Bethesda actually confirmed Rage 2 was real, it got a lot of people talking, mainly because it came as such a surprise.
Bethesda formally announced Rage 2 after a series of teasers on Twitter, and apart from a few recognisable weapons, it looks to be in quite stark contrast to the first game. Whereas the first Rage had a drab colour palette consisting mostly of different shades of brown, Rage 2 is bursting with vibrant colours, and it appears the sequel will take a wackier approach to the post-apocalyptic wasteland. And unlike the first game, there will be more biomes for players to explore as well. In addition to mountainous deserts, there's also forests, swamps and towns populating the open world, which the designers have described as a post-apocalyptic world recovering from a catastrophe. Elaborating on the open world design, creative director Tim Willis told GamesIndustry.biz recently, quote, "From the story and the different biomes we've created, we try to evolve the game past the 50 shades of brown we had in Rage and Avalanche had in Mad Max. So we really embraced the colours, the vibrancy of the personalities, the characters, the story and of course the marketing, which has done really well for us."
50 Shades of Brown. Sounds like a bad curry.
Oh my god. That book's not going to sell, man. See that down the airport, W.H. Smith's. So what do we know about the gameplay in Rage 2 and how will it improve over the original? Well, it's apparently getting a major overhaul according to the developers. First off, Rage 2 will have a true open world according to Bethesda, where you can, quote, "go anywhere, shoot anything and explode everything." In fact, id Software told IGN at E3 2018 that players can go anywhere in the world from the outset.
So that's the same thing, isn't it? You see that mountain over there?
Yeah.
You can go there.
Also no limits, I guess, so you can just jump in the car right at the very beginning of the game, get out of the tutorial. There's probably going to be a tutorial, but then you can go anywhere you want, which is quite a big deal.
And as for the shooting mechanics, hands-on impressions have compared it favourably to id's last game, the highly acclaimed Doom. Complementing the actual gun shooting is a bevy of abilities like a ground slam and gadgets such as the wing stick, which is making a return from the original. These abilities operate on cooldown meters. There's also an ultimate ability called Overdrive, which makes the player more powerful and enemies drop better loot, but it also works on a cooldown and players must fill a meter before being able to use it. Another key gameplay mechanic returning from the old game is vehicle combat, and it's promised to be much better this time around. Impressions of the vehicle combat from E3 have said there is a clear influence from Avalanche's Mad Max game, which was widely praised for its satisfying car combat. Vehicles are supposedly sophisticated with a selection of weapons to choose from, and like Mad Max, Rage 2 will feature enemy convoys which players can raid in order to get better gear.
That's actually really good news for me because I was a huge fan of Mad Max's car combat. It was really good, and it was just the on-foot stuff in that game that let it down. So if you think about the car combat from Mad Max combined with the gun shooting from Doom, that's a cool game, possibly. Those two comparisons, I've got my hopes quite high for this game, which is a surprise because I hated the way they marketed it to begin with.
I like you to be negative. Was it the pink hair, Mike? Is that what it was?
No, it was just the loud, just kind of. Wah! Fucking alright, just chill out. So with all these big changes, you're probably thinking, is this actually a sequel to Rage? Why not just make a new IP? Well, creative director Tim Willett said Rage 2 will continue the story from the first game, to some degree at least, while also making it so that newcomers won't feel intimidated. Speaking at a closed-door preview event earlier this year, Willits reportedly told attendees that while Rage 2 is a completely different experience to the first game, there will be story connections. Here's what he had to say there, quote, "Rage 2 is very different from Rage 1. It is truly a different experience from the original. We set the fiction of the story far enough away from the original to give it an independent and unique story. We also changed the main character to be someone entirely different, and in this game, the main character has a voice and can talk. You play as Walker, a character with their own past, and throughout the game, Walker will mention important things about the world since Rage 1, helping players remember or learn about the history of the first game. If players have not played Rage 1 or are unfamiliar with it, they should not be afraid of Rage 2. We will lay out the backstory of the first game and give players all the information they need to play."
And so for those left disappointed by the unfulfilled promises of the first game, Willits has been keen to address that as well. Speaking to the official PlayStation magazine, Willits acknowledged the original game didn't quite live up to the open world promises ID Software made during its development. But they have remedied this with Rage 2 and the world will be seamless. Willits said, quote, "We had the mega texture technology and we had the open world, but it was really kind of two different things. It was the wasteland and you then loaded another level and then you were in your first person combat. Well, that's all gone now and you're just in the game. Everything is seamless and together and you can engage in combat the way you want. The promise of Rage is delivered in Rage 2. Well, that sells that then.
Yeah, it's a recurrent theme, this. I mean, it's the Division 2 had a very similar thing of saying, oh, we've learned lessons from the first Division to fix the end game in Division 2. So it's something that they're saying. It's a smart thing to say because if your game comes out, original game comes out and it's just kind of, yeah, it's good, but, you know, whatever. You want to say that the second one's going to be better, obviously, but they are, you know, they're talking a big game with this one. It was actually one of my picks of E3. I just really liked the look of the gameplay and it just looked pretty exciting. I'm sick to death like post-apocalyptic stuff, but just for some reason, this is working for me, and I'm hopeful that it pans out. I'm hopeful that it is a good game. id Software is a big studio with a big history, so you always expect them to do something good. And then I enjoyed the original Rage, but a lot of people were disappointed, and a lot of that was down to the unfulfilled promises, linearity, and kind of modular design, which he talked about there, where it just felt like you were just, step, loading screen, get in the car, loading screen, here's some shooting, loading screen. It was just a bit, incoherent. It sounds like they're fixing that in the second one, and I'm going to be keeping an eye on it anyway.
I think Rage 2 has definitely benefited from the way that it was announced with the Walmart leak, and everybody's attention was on that game prior to E3 when all the other games got announced, and it may well have got lost in the mire of all those other games. Yeah. Developers have been asked specifically, was this a mistake? Did do this on purpose? And they've come out and said, no, this was a complete mistake. It wasn't meant to be leaked. We did have a plan to announce it prior to E3, but we kind of moved up the timescale a little bit and started to use that as kind of a reason to start getting the information out there. And the other thing that it's done is helped the game from being distinguished from games like Fallout 76, which is another huge Bethesda published title, which they post-apocalyptic kind of world, the same kind of theme you might say, but it's helped Rage 2 stand out from that because it was announced the way that it did. And that's another thing that Tim Willits has acknowledged, is that the whole way that it was announced has definitely helped Rage 2 in its marketing and promotion, and the whole generating the buzz and hype around the game. Let's hope they can ride that, and let's hope they deliver on the Doom gunplay and the Mad Max style driving, as Mike was talking about earlier, and they deliver something uniquely special.
Did you play the first Rage? Did you think it was alright like me, or did you think, no, this is actually quite a bad game? And either way, are you looking forward to Rage 2? Let me know down in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. There should be another video right there if you want to watch that, and a link to Patreon if you want to support the channel. Thanks for watching. See you next time.